Hey guys, how's it going? Jordan Locke here. I am so happy to come to you today and report that Spain has won the World Cup. Yes, Spain has beaten Argentina, and I am beyond stoked, beyond thrilled, beyond excited to report that to you. And I'm not the only person who's excited. If you haven't noticed, the entire world is excited that Argentina has lost and that Spain has beaten them. And I have to add that Spain didn't just beat Argentina. Spain literally humiliated Argentina. Argentina didn't have a single shot on goal in over 100 minutes of playtime. That is a complete demolition. It's an annihilation of a team. And I don't think anybody expected Spain to dominate Argentina this badly. I think a lot of people expected Spain to win, but I don't think anybody expected Spain to dominate Argentina the way that they dominated them. So why am I so happy that Argentina lost? Why am I so happy that Spain won? Why is literally the rest of the world so happy that Spain won and that Argentina lost, and that we'll most likely never have to hear from Argentina as a football team in the World Cup again? Well, there are plenty of reasons, but we can sum everything up by stating that Argentina, the football team, and quite frankly, Argentinians in general, but we'll focus on the football team. The Argentinian football team has shown themselves this World Cup to be among some of the dirtiest, scummiest teams in the world. Probably the team that has cheated the most this entire World Cup. And many teams have cheated, but I would say not many have cheated as much as Argentina has. To the point where people have noticed that it's not just Argentina who has cheated, but the refs and FIFA have very clearly had an agenda this entire World Cup, and their agenda was very clearly to help Argentina advance through the World Cup, win their matches, whether they won fairly or whether the refs had to help them, and get them to the World Cup so that Messi can break a record and FIFA can make record-breaking profits once again. People aren't stupid. People notice this. There have been so many bogus calls this World Cup against teams that Argentina was playing. Meanwhile, when Argentina fouls or Argentina does something wrong, the refs barely called anything on them. There's also a lot of discourse online stating that, the Argentinian team is a dirty football team and they've always been like that. They've always been pretty scummy, but Messi somehow is above the fray and let's not count him in with the Argentinians. No, Messi is not above the fray. Messi is just as dirty as the rest of the Argentinian football team. And if you didn't believe that before this World Cup certainly proves to you that Messi is no different than the rest of the Argentinian football team. What on earth could I be talking about? Well, for starters, I'm sure all of you remember the scene when Messi stepped on the Algerian player's leg full cleat and didn't even get so much as a yellow card. Not even a red card. That was most certainly, I would say, accepting of a red card. He most certainly should have gotten a red card for that action. But not only did he not get a red card, he didn't get a yellow card for that. The refs never called it. Meanwhile, Balogun for the US had an offense that was much more minor than Messi's, and he got an instant red card and got kicked off the field. What about Messi going to the Spanish player, speaking with a Spanish player, and then snitching on the Spanish player to the refs, trying to get the Spanish player a red card and get him kicked off the field? I'm sure all of you guys saw this scene in the World Cup where Messi is talking with a Spanish player, and then he goes and tattletales to the ref to try to get this player kicked off the field. You're not going to sit here and tell me that that kind of behavior is any better than the rest of the Argentinian team. So why am I so happy that Argentina lost? Why is the world so happy that Argentina lost? Argentina has proved themselves to be the scummiest, one of the scummiest certainly, one of the dirtiest, one of the teams that cheats the most, not only in the entire World Cup, but in the entire world. And let's not forget that Argentina's football team is also one of the most racist in the world. These are literally bottom of the barrel people in almost every single regard. We're going to get into all of those, and I'll provide details for everything that I just stated in a little bit. For starters, Argentina has proved themselves to be not only sore losers, but sore winners. They took their opportunity in their win against England to start making political statements on the pitch about a war in 1980s that they lost and lost decisively. They were sore losers in the sense that when Spain beat them, they started getting physical and started acting like run-of-the-mill street thugs. So many people on that Argentinian team fought very hard to earn red cards. But of course, the refs, as they have been this entire World Cup, were doing the best that they could to help Argentina win the game. Unfortunately, the entire world has noticed that it's not just the Argentinian football team who acts this scummy. I'm sad to say it, but many Argentinian fans have been acting just as scummy. There's so many videos coming out now of Argentinian fans making fun of people from different countries, making fun of people's ethnicities, making racist statements towards people at games. And unfortunately, none of this is really new for Argentina. Unfortunately, there are videos of Enzo, a player on Argentina who played this World Cup, making racist chants against black players on the French team with his teammates, with fellow Argentinian football players. So it's not just the Argentinian fans who are racist, the Argentinian team is pretty racist too. And again, to address the topic that many people keep running with this narrative that Messi is somehow above the fray and not as bad as the rest of the Argentinian football team, where was Messi when these videos came out of Enzo chanting these racist things against the black French football players? Where was he? He didn't say a single thing. He didn't make a single public statement. Messi didn't say anything at all. So to add to all the cheating that Messi has done this World Cup, he's no better than the Argentinian players that he plays with. So we're going to get into the reasons why everyone was so happy to see Argentina lose this World Cup. So where did all this racism come from in Argentina, from the Argentinian fans and the Argentinian football team? Well, if you go back in Argentinian history, we can see that racism is nothing new for this country, unfortunately. So it's not just this scummy behavior that they exhibited on the field, not just the scummy behavior that the fans exhibited towards other teams' fans and even towards their own country. As videos right now are surfacing of Argentinians rioting and destroying their own city because they can't handle the fact that they lost against Spain. This racism has unfortunately been a central point in Argentinian history. In the 19th century, 40% of Argentina was actually black. These were descendants of slaves and slaves. You might wonder, where did all these black people go? Why are there pretty much no black people in Argentina at this moment? How did the population of black people from Argentina go from 40% black to less than 1% black? Well, in the 19th century, when Argentina was fighting against Spain for independence, they had a problem. And the problem was black people living in their country. And they wanted to get rid of the black people living in their country. And they wanted to whitewash their country. And so they decided to kill two birds with one stone. In their war for independence against Spain, they told the black people living in the country that if they chose to fight for their freedom and the freedom of Argentina against Spain, then they would earn their freedom and they wouldn't be slaves anymore. Sounds like a good deal, right? A lot of black people took this deal and joined the army and fought for the independence of Argentina against Spain. What the Argentinian government didn't tell them is that all those black people were going to be sent to the front lines and become cannon fodder for the Argentinian government and the Argentinian people. So the black soldiers were disproportionately sent to the front lines and slaughtered versus Spain. That accounted for a huge loss of Argentinians' black population. Not to mention the fact that Argentinians make it no secret that they are not a fan of black people. Argentina is one of the most racist countries in the world. There are plenty of YouTubers, there are plenty of influencers who travel to Argentina, and so many of them come back with stories of racism and how they're called like all these racist names, and it's actually pretty terrible considering the fact that when you look at the Argentinian population, a vast majority of the population is indigenous. A lot of these people are indigenous. Yes, they have a lot of Europeans from Nazis coming over and Europeans emigrating, but the majority of Argentinians' population is indigenous people, so you'd think that they'd be somewhat sensitive to the plight of slaves and people who were slaves. But no, they've taken on this mentality that even though they are indigenous people or mixed with indigenous people, that somehow they are better than the black Argentinians who live there and black people in general. It's actually pretty disgusting of the Argentinian people to take on this mentality, but that's where we are right now. As if that wasn't bad enough, after World War II, Argentina became a hotspot for Nazis fleeing prosecution from their war crimes in Europe. And not only did thousands of Nazis emigrate to Argentina, but the Argentinian government actually helped them. Yes, you heard that right. The Argentinian government put plans together to help Nazis emigrate from Europe and escape prosecution and disappear into the country. So we have their treatment of black people, we have their treatment of slaves, we have the fact that Argentina became a safe haven for Nazis. And don't forget, in the 1980s, an Argentinian dictator thought that they could actually take on the United Kingdom and beat them in a war. So this dictator, realizing that he was very unpopular and that there was tons of economic turmoil in the country, did what every single dictator throughout the history of the world has done whenever they face unpopularity and economic issues. They tried to start a war. So this dictator tried to start a war by claiming these islands from Britain. At one point, he sent 13,000 soldiers there to occupy these islands that were supposed to be British territory. These islands you may have heard of as either the Falklands or the Malvinas. In Argentina, they're known as the Malvinas. In the United Kingdom, they're known as the Falklands. Well, to make a long story short, this war didn't last very long. It lasted about 2 months or so, and despite the fact that the Argentinians outnumbered the British soldiers there, the British soldiers routed the Argentinian army, and after about 2 months or so, the Argentinians surrendered. So not a great track record so far, right? So obviously a lot more has happened in Argentina, but we're going to ignore all that stuff and focus strictly on what's happened this World Cup. So going into this World Cup, we knew that the Argentinian football team had a racism problem. Not just the Argentinian people, but the football team. And we knew this because one of their most famous and skilled players, Enzo, was caught on video doing a racist chant with fellow Argentinian football teammates. This video came out sometime last year. They have never apologized for it. And, I want to address the fact that everyone always talks about how Messi is somehow above the fray of the Argentinian team, and he's not as dirty and scummy as the Argentinian team. Where was Messi when this racist video came out? Messi is the figurehead of this Argentinian football team. Why did Messi not get on record in a video or a phone call or something on record stating that what these racist Argentinian football fans were chanting against the black French players was absolutely terrible and it doesn't represent the Argentinian football team or the Argentinian people? Where was Messi? Messi was nowhere to be found. So unfortunately, going into this World Cup, the Argentinian football team wasn't just known as racist thugs, they were known as thugs in general. They were pushing the Spanish players to the ground. They were shoving Spanish players, trying to instigate fights. And the only person who got a red card on the team was Enzo, the same player who was caught on video previously chanting racist chants against black French players. But it shouldn't have just been Enzo. There are many other Argentinian football players who were also being just as physical with the Spanish players. They were having no success beating them via skill. So then they turned to just pure street thuggery to try and push the Spanish players around. Here are a couple of videos of Argentinian players getting physical, pushing the Spanish players, shoving them to the ground, just being downright disrespectful and rude to the Spanish players, who are, by the way, outskilling them and outmatching them in every single way possible in this game. So at the end of the day, Spain beat Argentina fair and square. They held Argentina scoreless. Argentina didn't have a single attempt on goal for 100 minutes of the game. Literally a masterclass in football. The Spanish players outskilled them, outmatched them, outplayed them in every single way possible. And how does the Argentinian football team respond? By trying to beat up on the Spanish players, get physical with them, and shove them to the ground. These are the kind of players that are on the Argentinian football team, and the Argentinian fans were not much better. They were seen doing the same thing to fans of Spain and fans of other teams the entire World Cup. In fact, the Argentinian people even tried destroying their own city and rioting because they couldn't take the fact that they lost, and they felt so entitled that they should win this World Cup. And that sense of entitlement is one of the many reasons why so many people wanted to see Argentina lose this World Cup. So we are so happy that Argentina has lost. The entire world is celebrating, and I can't blame them, honestly. Argentina has shown themselves to be very dirty, to be cheaters, and to be, quite frankly, sore losers and horrible human beings. And not just the Argentinian football team, the Argentinian fans, and a lot of the Argentinian people in general. So here's to hoping that we never have to see Argentina in another World Cup again. Messi has been a great player. He's not the greatest player, and it's unfortunate that his legacy is going to be mired by the behavior of the rest of the Argentinian football team. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Go Spain. Congratulations, Spain, for beating Argentina, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.